And for more on the fight against the Islamic State, I'm joined now by Morris Davis. He's a former chief prosecutor for the military commissions at Guantanamo, and he is also a professor of Howard University School of Law. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming in to our broadcast today. So we know that a shocking fact out there is that this group, the Islamic State, is only a group of about 30,000 people. It's really hard to believe that they're this small and have been able to take over this much land in such short of a time. But we know that roughly half of the recruits are from foreign countries. Now, and a large block of them are from the Muslim countries like Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, but there are those out there from China, Russia, Belgium, the United States, and the U.S. is now pushing for a United Nations resolution to stop the flow to this group. Is this legally possible?
It's possible, but it's a difficult task. As you mentioned, there's about 30,000 is the estimate now, the total number of fighters with ISIS. If you go back a couple of weeks, the estimate was 10,000. So it's grown substantially, and as you mentioned, about half of those are foreign fighters that have come in, primarily from Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, those kind of places. But we've seen Americans. I'm from North Carolina. There was a gentleman from North Carolina who was apprehended when he came back from Lebanon after being unsuccessful in trying to get to Syria. We had the teen in Colorado that was convicted last week after trying to catch a flight to Turkey in order to get to Syria. So it is possible to stop those things, but it's difficult, particularly in a free country like ours where travel and communication is...
Is this something the UN would consider?
I think the UN will, and I think it's likely that a resolution will pass. Now, the devil's in the detail. Passing the resolution is one thing, enforcing it is another. But it seems that the countries in that region, particularly Turkey, has really stepped up its efforts. You know, for a long time, that was kind of the gateway into Syria, and they were either covertly or overtly supporting ISIS and those type of groups, and they've really cracked down on people using their border as a gateway.
How then, in turn, would you prosecute them? I know that you were involved in what was going on at Guantanamo Bay. This administration in the United States has been trying to obviously to shut Guantanamo Bay down, but where would you put these people and how would you go about prosecuting them?
Well, as we saw last week with the young lady Shannon Conley, who was successfully prosecuted in federal court, quickly, efficiently. She'll be sentenced soon. So I would advocate, at least for the Americans or the ones that are apprehended here in the U.S., prosecuting them in federal court. She was convicted of providing material support for terrorism, which is would seem to be the logical charge for people that are trying to get there. I mean, once you join up with the group and you participate in some of the acts, then murder or terrorism or some of the other charges would be available. But hopefully there'll be more cases like Ms. Conley where we stop people before they actually can connect up.
I see. Okay, let's talk about the flow of oil, which is really aiding and abetting this group, Islamic State. The Obama administration here in the United States is struggling to cut off the millions of dollars that's flowing to them. They've been putting pressure on Turkey, a NATO ally, asking the country to block the sale of oil. How do you crack down on them?
Well, it's difficult. Unfortunately, we have people in the region that were our friends and allies that fostered ISIS to begin with, providing funding. And it's kind of like where I'm from, where we had kudzu in the south that we cultivated and it got out of control. We spent decades trying to bring it back in control. I think ISIS is kind of the same way, where you had countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar that funneled money and support to these groups, and now they've gotten out of control and they're trying to rein it back in. But with the oil revenue, they've become self-sustaining. So Turkey, I think, is walking a tightrope. President Erdogan, there are 49 Turkish citizens being held hostage by ISIS, which I think really limits, at least publicly, what he can do to try to rein the group in. But it seems that Turkey is stepping up their efforts. But with oil, it's a valuable commodity, and there's always a willing buyer out there. And so trying to stamp it out and cut off that flow is primarily an effort of closing down the borders where the trucks can't get across to make the deliveries.
All righty. Morris Davis, thank you so much for your time and your insight. We appreciate it.